6 to 9 million years ago, the plains of prehistoric Argentina were defined by constant threat. If you stepped out into the brush of the late Miocene, your survival depended entirely on spotting a nightmare charging straight at you. The primary danger lived on the ground. The terror bird, specifically Devincentia, was a bear-sized apex predator that ruled the land with a massive, razor-sharp beak and powerful legs. To be on the ground was to be in their territory. To survive alongside these terrestrial giants, one predator adopted a radical strategy. It avoided the ground-level competition entirely by evolving to conquer the prehistoric sky. This was Argentavis magnificens, the magnificent silver bird. It was the pinnacle of avian evolution and remains the heaviest creature to ever rule the air. Escaping the terror birds wasn't a retreat. It was an evolutionary masterstroke. By claiming the sky, Argentavis monopolized an entirely new ecological niche where no other predator could reach it. Dominating that niche required a staggering physical presence. When standing at its nest, a mature Argentavis reached 6.5 feet tall, looking a modern human directly in the eye. It tipped the scales at roughly 159 pounds. That's the same weight as a mid-sized jaguar, meaning this bird was carrying the bulk of a large jungle cat into the clouds. This massive life cycle began with an egg weighing over 2 pounds, nearly the size of an ostrich's, and ready to hatch a giant. However, their size created a unique biological vulnerability. This timeline shows that while most birds fledge in a matter of months, an Argentavis chick required 16 months in the nest before it was capable of flight. Becoming a giant required an incredibly long, vulnerable childhood. This necessitated months of relentless protective parenting and constant feeding to ensure the chick survived its time on the ground. Feeding a growing predator for over a year placed an immense caloric burden on the parents. They had to be exceptionally efficient at locating food across the vast Argentine plains. Their sensory loadout was elite. They combined the telescopic, high-resolution vision of modern eagles with a vulture-like ability to smell decaying flesh from over a mile away. They supplemented their scavenging by hunting actively, using their powerful legs to chase down prey and highly flexible jaws to swallow animals as large as hares in a single gulp. Argentavis was a multi-tool predator. Whether they were bullying other carnivores off a kill or chasing down live game, they were uniquely equipped to dominate their ecosystem from the top down. Eventually, every juvenile had to face its first flight, but because they were so heavy, they couldn't simply flap their wings to take off from a standing start. To get airborne, they needed to reach 25 miles per hour. Since they couldn't sprint, they likely launched themselves off high cliffs, diving into strong headwinds to force air over their wings. Once in the air, they stayed aloft using thermal soaring. As the sun heated the ground, it created columns of rising warm air, represented here by the red arrows, which pushed upward against the bird's wings. Their 91 square foot wingspan acted like a massive biological sail. By catching these thermals, Argentavis could stay suspended for hours without the exhausting need to flap its wings. This 20-foot wingspan is almost double that of the wandering albatross, the largest flying bird alive today. This energy-efficient flight allowed a single bird to patrol a territory of 190 square miles, an area larger than the city of Philadelphia. Maintaining flight at 159 pounds relied on a passive, flawless exploitation of atmospheric physics rather than brute muscular force. This mastery of the air depended on a specific climate. Roughly 6.8 million years ago, the Earth entered a period of global cooling that fundamentally changed the landscape of Argentina. The cooling had a direct biomechanical consequence. As ground temperatures dropped, the warm thermals that Argentavis relied on began to shrink and disappear. Without these elevators, its 159-pound weight became a deadly anchor. Sustaining flight through flapping was impossible, and the giants were grounded. The extreme specialization that allowed them to conquer the skies left them unable to survive a changing world. When the thermals vanished, the reign of the silver bird ended. Argentavis vanished from the fossil record abruptly. Interestingly, their smaller, lighter relatives in the Teratorn family continued to exist for millions of years. Our only knowledge of this titan comes from fragmentary, crushed bones, now housed within the halls of the Museo de la Plata. Argentavis magnificens represents the absolute physical limit of nature's aerodynamic engineering, the eternal heavyweight king of the prehistoric skies.